Hi guys, thanks for joining me. I hope you're all keeping well and had a very good week. Welcome to another video. It's Halloween. Now as it's Halloween, today's video is going to be best horror movies, but which ones made my top 15? Please press that subscribe button down below for lots more videos if you can. And as always, please feel free to get involved in them comments down below as well. This week, I would love to know what sort of horror movies do you like? And also, what are your favourite top 3 horror movies as well? Me personally, I love zombie movies. I also love to be scared when I'm watching a horror as well. But for me, zombie movies are the best for me. I recently watched this on Wednesday and it was very good. I'm a bit behind. It's from 2016. The story is about a zombie outbreak in Korea. I love zombie movies and this was a very good zombie movie from 2016. That's Train to Busan. Does have English subtitles, but sadly does not make my top 15 list. Can I also please mention a channel, Boba Fett's Bounty? There's a guy in there called Rob. Now, I haven't known Rob that long. I've only been subscribed to his channel for 2 weeks now. But he kindly invited me along to take part in his Halloween horror series. I'm in part 4, which premieres tonight. I was really excited but really nervous as well because I've never actually been on someone else's channel before. So Rob, thank you so much for having me on your channel. Very, very kind of you. Really enjoyed it. I hope it's okay. Please do check out Boba Fett's Bounty. That's Rob's channel, Boba Fett's Bounty. I'll leave his link below in my description. Now let's move on to my top 15 list. I really wanted to do this list for Halloween. And when I was doing it, there are so many good horror movies out there. There are also so many bad horror movies as well. But we're concentrating on the good horror movies. Now, in order to do this list properly, it's not the right list, it's just my list. So in order to do this list properly, I've had to leave out a lot of good horror movies. I've also had to leave out my favourite franchise, Final Destination. That does not make my top 15 list, although it is my favourite. So I have some honourable mentions that I'm going to go through that sadly didn't make my top 15 list. They are Children of the Corn, Wreck was a very, or REC, whichever you want to call it, that was a very good scary movie, but the ending for me let it down. The Blair Witch Project, that was really hyped up in the day. I remember going to the cinema and watching the Blair Witch Project and everyone was going around going, was that real and all this, because it was done with the normal camcorder. Lots of hype around that movie. That sadly didn't make my top 15 list either. Saw from 2004, another good movie and with a brilliant twist as well. Sadly that did not make my list. Dawn of the Dead or Zombies from 1978. I so wanted to put this movie in, but I just couldn't. It was a really good movie. So it's Dawn of the Dead or Zombies, whichever you want to call it. The Fly from 1986. Another movie that I wanted to put in, but there's just no room. That did not make my list either. Christine from 1983. That's about the car. That did not make my list. It, Pennywise the Clown. Another one that should have been in, but there's just no room for it. Did not make my list. Another movie I wanted to put in. Now, you all know I love zombie movies. This is probably the best zombie movie, one of the best zombie movies around, apart from the ending. 28 Days Later. I love the way you've got an empty London. So clever the way they did that. Really good. It's the kind of thing that looks real. If there was a zombie outbreak, for instance, in London, possibly that's what it would feel like when you're watching the movie. The trouble is, I didn't like the ending. It let it down. Amityville Horror, that did not make it either. The Scream franchise, again, I wanted to put that in, but there's just no room. Paranormal Activity, another movie that scared me, but I couldn't fit it in. And last of all, Child's Play. You've obviously got Chucky. I could not fit that in, and I so wanted to put the Final Destination in as well, but I could not. If you're going to do this list properly, like I say, it's not the right list, just my list, just my opinion, but I had to put some really good horrors in there and leave these ones out. Okay, let's move on to my top 15 list. Number 15, The Woman in Black from 2012. The movie was directed by James Watkins and Daniel Radcliffe. He plays a lawyer that is sent to examine an old house that belonged to a deceased woman. Very scary. Saw this at the cinema and there's quite a few jumpy scenes in this, especially when the whole cinema was dead quiet and these scenes started to happen. So that's number 15. I'm going to put The Woman in Black. Number 14, a movie from 2005, The Descent. I saw this one at the cinema, had a great twist in it. This is about a group of friends that go on an expedition to a cave, but it turns into a nightmare when they get stuck and they are not alone. Number 13, Fright Night. This is about a teenager that discovers he has a vampire living next door to him. Now, I've put this in here because I had so many fond memories of watching this myself as a teenager. I used to look out the window and check the next door neighbours to make sure they weren't vampires either. So that's why this one goes in here. The 2011 remake starring Colin Farrell was absolutely awful, but I've put this one in here. This is Fright Night from 1985. Number 12, an Australian horror from 2005, Wolf Creek. Number 11, a very good movie, a classic movie, The Thing from 1982. The director was John Carpenter. Number 10, a movie from 2018, A Quiet Place. It's about blind but noise-sensitive creatures, and it was directed by John Krasinski. I was so looking forward to reviewing part 2 of this at the cinemas. I almost had my cinema ticket. I was due to review it on Friday, but Thursday night all the cinemas got closed down because of obviously what was going on in lockdown and that. So that is A Quiet Place going in at number 10. Very good movie, and I remember seeing this at the cinema, and it was so quiet in the cinema. I think it was actually only me, my wife and a couple of other people in there, so we didn't have a problem making any noise, but a very good scary movie. Number 9, a classic movie from 1976 directed by Brian De Palma, Carrie. The remake from 2013 wasn't bad either, but not as good as the original. So that's Carrie from 1976 at number 9. Number 8, a classic movie from 1973. This must have been so scary watching this at the cinema back in the 70s. It's The Exorcist. I haven't actually seen this movie for ages, so that's The Exorcist at number 8. Number 7, a scary paranormal movie from 2013, The Conjuring, directed by James Wan and stars Patrick Wilson. Number 6, a classic 60s horror movie directed by Alfred Hitchcock, Psycho. Number 5, this is one of the first horror movies I remember watching as a teenager, A Nightmare on Elm Street, directed by Wes Craven from 1984. Now this is the first time we see Fred Krueger come into our dreams. Now before we get into my top 4, any one of these top 4 movies could have been number 1. I wanted to put all of them at number 1, but obviously I couldn't. So number 4, a movie from 1978, my favourite franchise of all time. It used to be A Nightmare on Elm Street, now it is Halloween. Directed by John Carpenter, stars Jamie Lee Curtis. That comes in at number 4, Halloween. Number 3, another classic horror from the 70s, from 1974, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is about a group of people that run out of gas and they're tormented by a psychotic family. Another movie that was really scary, probably back in the 70s. That's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre at number 3. Number 2, a classic horror movie from 1981. I'll give you a clue. It's about 2 American friends that visit the UK, and they're touring the UK when they are attacked by... Yes, of course, it is an American Werewolf in London. Werewolf in Paris, I didn't like that at all. It just wasn't as good as American Werewolf in London. So number 2, American Werewolf in London. Number 1 is another classic horror movie from 1980s, directed by Stanley Kubrick. Any ideas? It's The Shining. I thought Jack Nicholson did a really good job of playing Jack Torrance, but for me personally, it's these twin girls in this movie that I just freak me out. I've got twin boys, but like I say, I don't know whether that has something to do with it. I just cannot stand watching this movie. It still freaks me out today. So my number 1 is The Shining from 1980. Please remember, it's not the right list, it's just my list, just a little bit of fun on Halloween. They are my favourite best horror movies that I've put, my favourite top 15 that I've put in there. Like I said, I did have to leave a lot out, a lot of really good horror movies out. Please do feel free to get involved in them comments down below. What sort of horror movies do you like? Also, what are your top 3 horror movies of all time? Please do put in them comments. I will get back to every single one of you. If you like this video, please do give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe if you can. It'd be absolutely amazing to have you on board. You've been watching Carl on the channel Carlinio9. It is Halloween. Please do stay safe, but watch out for the boogeyman. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care. Goodbye.